Okay, welcome to our Finance Friday weekly wealth creation course. Good to see everybody tonight. We're up on Facebook, we're on Zoom. We're gonna have a great course tonight. If you're just tuning in for the first time, my name is Jerry. I'm the owner, founder, CEO of Wealth DynamX. And my intention with my company is we help create financially educated and solvent families that achieve greater financial freedom in life. Okay, and so when I do these courses, I've been doing this course every Friday for I think like 4 years now. I don't think we've ever really missed a Friday other than maybe once or twice, but my goal is to spread financial literacy, financial education. Okay. And when I say that, I don't mean just cool concepts that you see on a webinar or a TikTok video or an Instagram video. And then you're like, oh, that sounds cool. And then you move on and never do anything. No. This is stuff that if you actually watch and you actually apply it, this will change your life. And I can tell you that because it did mine. I was a broke kid from Alaska. Okay, I'm 29 years old. I'm a multimillionaire. I run a multi-million-dollar a year company. I've helped clients all over the country achieve, financial literacy, solvency, build wealth, become accredited investors, which literally means they have $1 million net worth, which is just crazy to think about helping someone do that. And it's with the stuff that I teach you on these courses. Okay, so this is not, theory. This is not, a buzzword. This is not a fad. This is how the top 1% of wealth, have built financial freedom, proven, tried, true, and tested for hundreds of years, right? In some cases, thousands of years. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about how to do that and really make sure that we understand that this is all about application and using the information, right? Now, the first thing I want to do is if you're brand new, I want to lay down some ground rules that I always lay down every week. Number one is I want you to have a reason for being here. So really quickly, if you don't already, I want you to think about that. Why are you here? Okay, Friday, if you're on the East Coast, it's 10 p.m. Like, what the hell are you doing on this webinar? That's weird, actually, that you're watching this. Okay, and that's the point is if you're watching this, you are weird. You're the exception to the rule. Okay, not very many people care about finances to the level that they're going to spend their Friday night learning about it. So I want you to think about why am I here? What is my reason for being here? What is my unique purpose? And what am I trying to get out of this? Okay, because we can't learn anything if we don't have a purpose, right? That's where learning turns into speculation and spectation, right? I think spectatorship is probably the better term, where we just watch it and we're like, oh, that's cool, but then we don't use it, right? And so if I'm not winning with finances, then that's the area that I look at in my life and dictate, okay, if I'm not winning in this area, then I want to get something out of this webinar tonight that helps this particular area. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is, I want to have you get rid of the idea that money is and finances are this complicated, sophisticated thing that's only for the wealthy, that's not for you to know because you didn't go to, the right college, or you weren't born in the right family, or you didn't have the silver spoon in your mouth as a kid. I didn't have any of those things. Okay, and when you study the top 1%, most of them didn't either. Okay, a lot of them didn't even graduate freaking high school. Right. So this idea that wealth is this complicated, complex, convoluted thing, and we need these experts, guys, that's all marketing. That's marketing from banks, Wall Street, these firms that want you to feel like you need them so that you pay them fees and commissions for the rest of your life. That's not how wealth is built. Right. So two things that I want to share with you on that point. If you feel like money is unknowable and confusing, and it's like, man, I've never been able to get this. Think about this. Money comes down to two things. Okay. Math and vocabulary. At the basis, it's all just basic math, right? Like think about back in 8th grade when you learned about addition and subtraction and multiplication and division and how to solve formulas using those things, right? A lot of us actually learned our times tables in like 2nd and 3rd grade. So if you did okay in that, you're going to be able to do okay with this because that's all it is. This doesn't get more complicated than that mathematically. Okay. Now, where it gets complicated is when people who either don't understand the math or they do understand the math, but don't want you to understand the math, they add vocabulary to represent the math. Vocabulary is just symbolism. So when you hear a big word, you should be thinking, okay, what math equation does that word represent? It almost doesn't matter what the word is for. Like it's some, fancy, $1 million word that someone came up with to confuse you. That's what it is, right? Do we really need to know that? Or do we need to know what math are they talking about? And what does that equation look like with finances? Okay, that's all it comes down to. So if at any point tonight you feel like I went over your head, I got way too complex or sophisticated or significant, I want you to let me know. Just let me know in the comments and say, hey, Could you break down whatever that was, whatever the concept was, whatever your question is? Okay. The second thing we've got to get rid of if we want to learn anything is the idea that we know it all already. Okay, I'm going to go back to what I said a second ago. If you're not winning with money in the area that we're talking about, you don't know everything already. Okay, knowledge is represented by competency. Okay, competency is the ability to do something correctly and with speed. Okay, it's not just correctly, right? Like I can go to a McDonald's where the guy builds my burger correctly, but it takes an hour. Okay, that's not competence. He's just looking at what the flashcard says. Right. But if he's like, boom, 60 seconds done out the window, so, oh, that guy's competent. Okay. Speed and knowledge, doing something the right way and doing it fast and not sacrificing the quality of it with the speed. That's what competence is. Okay. So if I don't have that in an area, then I have to confront the fact that, man, maybe I really don't know as much as I thought I did in that area. Okay. And so that's what I want to talk about tonight. And that's not to invalidate anybody. That's not to tell you you don't know something. It's just look at your own stats and you can determine for yourself, what do I know? What do I not know? Okay. The next thing is we will go live throughout this to answer questions. If you have questions, drop them. If you're on Facebook, drop them in the chat. If you're on Zoom, drop them in the chat feature. And if you're on Zoom and you have a microphone, I can actually mic you up and then we can talk live on air tonight and go over what your questions are. And I love doing that. So don't hold out on me if you've got questions. Okay, so those are all of the things that I like to cover. Obviously, you know, be a producer, not a consumer. We're not here to just watch this and consume the information and do nothing with it. We're here to apply the information successfully. And so my job as the teacher is to make sure that I give you the information that is simple, true, and applicable. Your job as the student is to obviously pay attention and listen, but also to look for the things you don't understand and to ask the right questions and ask what things mean and how you can apply them and be thinking about, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? That's the main thing is if I learn something, I should immediately know, okay, well, what do I do with this? Right. And if I don't know that, then I need to start asking some questions so I do know what to do with this. So that's my spiel. I do this at the very beginning every week because those are the ground rules to be able to learn anything. And I want to make sure you can learn indeed. So our topic tonight, what do you do with $10,000 or less? Okay. Now I came up with this as our course topic because this is actually one of the most asked questions. Okay, we went online. My marketing team went online. We looked on Google with finances and we looked at what are some of the most Googled and most searched things. And this was very high on the list. Okay, I've got $10,000. What do I do with it? Okay, now I love this question because $10,000 is a unique number. To me, that's enough money that it matters, but it's not a ton of money, right? Like anyone that's had more than 10,000, you're like, okay, yeah, that's a decent chunk. But it's not by any means anything to brag about. I'm not wealthy yet. I'm nowhere near it, but it's also not something I'd want to lose. And it's nothing I would turn down. If someone offered me $10,000, I would go for it. Right. So all of us have been there where we've had, you know, this amount or close to it. And if you're watching and you've never had this amount, I want to encourage you, you're going to be able to get there. Okay. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about tonight, you'll be able to use and get there. Right. But we are all familiar with this range of income. For some of us, you know, this is maybe a month or 2 months worth of income or 3 months worth of income. We've all had that pass through our hands before. Okay. Now I remember when I got my first 10 grand, like in the bank saved, I think I was 21 or 22 years old, most money that I'd ever had. I closed a couple of sales in my business. I helped a couple of clients out. And so the income from that brought in about $10,000 and it was all profit that month. And so I was able to, you know, use that in my business and start to look at that number. First, the thing I realized with this is the 10 grand, it was not that much different than 1,000, right? It was the same work that I did. It was just another comma and another digit, right? And if you've had that realization, you're like, yeah, that wasn't that much different. And I remember when I was 19 years old, I had a guy that was mentoring me and he said, hey, when you help someone with $1 million investment versus, you know, a $10,000 or $1,000 investment, he's like, the only difference is the amount of zeros you type in the commas. And I didn't believe him until that happened. And I was like, yeah, I said all the same things I usually say. I answered all the same questions I usually answer. And this time I got 10 grand instead of 1,000. Okay. So now I have this money and you might've been in this spot before where you're like, okay, well, what do I do with this? Okay. Cause if I've never had 10 grand before, if I've never had that, it's like, man, all the possibilities, right? Like that's, you know, several months worth of rent. I could try and buy investments with this. I could go on a vacation with it. I could do so many things. I could get a car. I could do basically within the realm of my life at the time, quote unquote, anything I wanted. because my thinking wasn't that big and I wasn't used to spending that much money. Okay. So if you're watching this right now, there's going to be three categories. Either you've got more than 10,000, you've got around 10,000 or less. Okay. Maybe slightly less, or you don't quite have 10,000 yet. You've got, less than 10,000 for sure. Okay. And I want to talk to each of you three groups because those are important phases to be in. So the first thing is, if I have never had 10 grand before, okay, the first thing I should do with this money is absolutely nothing. Okay. And the reason why I say that is I've never had 10 grand before. So the significance that I place on it is way too much. I think it's a lot more special than it is. And this isn't to invalidate you if you're like brand new to this and you're like, man, I have 10 grand right now. It's the first time ever. It's freaking awesome. It's not to invalidate you. It's okay. Well, it's just like the first time you've ever done anything. First time you kissed someone, you thought you were going to marry that person. Probably you didn't, right? First time you ever, scored in a sports game, you thought you were going to go pro. Okay. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. If you're watching this, you probably didn't go pro, right? Like everything we do for the first time, we're excited about, and it's something that we're like overly significant about and we're proud of, and rightfully so. But in the real world, 10 grand is not that much money. Okay. 10 grand, like in some companies in my business, we're going to spend 10 grand like that on marketing and staff and different things. And it's going to be gone before you can even look at it. Right. And so with this being said, if I place too much significance on it, then I start getting trigger fingered. So if I've never had 10 grand before, the first thing I'm looking at doing is I'm going to analyze the source. Okay. And this is even for some of us that have had 10 grand. We've got $10,000 now, right? If that's like, sort of, kind of, or definitely a lot of money in our lives right now, then I want to analyze the source. Why do I want to do that? I want to know where it came from. Okay. So in my own business and in my own life, when I get a lot of revenue in or a lot of income in, and I'm looking at, okay, well, it's awesome that I have this money. That's what I do, is I backtrack and I actually look at, where did it come from? Okay. What sources brought this in? And the way that you can do that, if it came in from one source, it's easy. If it came in from multiple, you can go look at your bank statement and you can look at your deposits and you can see, where did the bulk of this money come from? Okay. And the reason why is I want to be able to repeat. Okay. I don't want 10 grand once. I want 10 grand every single day. And if I don't know where it came from, then I can't figure out what I did to cause that transaction and get that income, and I can't repeat it. Okay. So I want to figure that out. I want to be able to repeat it. So for me, I look at, okay, well, when I got my first $10,000, it was from, a client that I helped with a fairly large investment deal. Okay. And so when I looked at that, I was like, okay, that came from an investment deal. It was a referral. It was somebody that I knew already that sent me this client. So I'm going to go talk to more referrals. In fact, I'm going to go back to this very client that gave me the investment that paid me the 10,000, and I'm going to ask him for referrals. Okay. Who's more likely to have 10 grand than the guy that I just got it from? Right. This is the way we've got to be thinking. And this is why I say, don't do anything, because we start thinking about what we're going to do with it. And then we overlook and bypass, well, where did it come from in the first place? And how do we get it? Okay. So I'm going to figure that out. The second thing is I'm going to figure out, what were the actions, what led up to it? Like I said, this was a referral, the things that I did to cause it. And here's the problem that happens is when we're brand new, we get the idea that it was luck. Okay. When we've not had that much money pass through our hands yet, we're like, well, I don't know what caused it. It was a referral. My sister was friends with a guy and she talked to him and then he talked to me. And then we did this investment and it paid out. And I can't control any of that because she was the one that had the referral. Well, no. What did I do that made her want to refer things to me in the first place? It wasn't just that I was her brother. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that she doesn't refer to me and I'm her brother. She doesn't tell people, go get a haircut from me. Right? Like that's not what I do. So I have to look at, okay, well, what do I actually cause? Not what didn't I cause? What did I actually cause? What were the real life actions that I took that led me to this? Okay. And once I figure those out, I can then figure out again, what are those things that I'm going to repeat? Okay. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Now, here's the thing is when I have $10,000, this is usually the area that I'm going to stick that 10,000. Okay. I'm going to look at, can I invest in not even sales and marketing? This is the myth that's out there is, buy the sales course, buy the marketing course when you've got $10,000 or less. I've heard that before from several gurus. That's because that's what they sell, right? Of course they want you to buy that. That's what they sell. That's how they make money. They're thinking about how they're going to get your 10,000. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't buy those things, but I'm saying for me, before I learned sales and marketing, I learned a skill. Okay. My skill was I knew about investments and insurance. Okay. Even before I knew how to sell myself, I had to learn a skill. And so that's the first thing is I'm going to invest in a skill set. Okay. If I don't have one yet, let's say I'm one of these people where I had $2,000 and I stuck it in some weird, crypto coin thing and it turned into 10 grand. And now I'm like, what do I do? Well, that's not a skill. Okay. I can't repeat that. I need to figure out how do I make good money, right? How do I increase the income? How do I become cause over it? So I would actually figure out like, okay, when I'm investing in a skill, there's two things I'm looking at. I'm looking at what is the biggest problem that's out there, and I'm looking at difficulty of that. Okay, so the more people this is a problem for, the wider that audience, that tells me there's a lot of clientele for that skill. The more difficult that problem is to solve, that tells me two things. It tells me that that skill is valuable because it's difficult for them to solve. And it also tells me there's a high barrier to entry because not everyone is going to be able to solve it. So there's very low competition. Right. And so that's what I'm looking at is I'm looking at, okay, well, these are the things that I do is I figure out what's my skill. I look at, okay, well, who's around me? What are the problems that they have? What are the biggest problems they have? And then how difficult are those problems to solve? And I look at that intersection of most amount of people and difficulty of problem. And that's my bullseye. And that's the skill that I'm going to go learn. Right. Nano comments, he said he did the same thing. He learned a skill first. Okay. And that's how it works. I have to have a skill. Otherwise, what am I really doing? I'm selling and marketing what? Right. Like that's where you start getting these scammy, social media influencers where you can see right through them. You're like, this person has nothing to offer me. Okay. Because it's not a real skill. It's not a problem that I have, and it's not difficult for me to solve. Okay. So when I start looking at this is where I figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do? And obviously, it's something that I have to have some interest in. I'm not going to say I have to like it, but I have to have some interest in it because the better you get at it, the more you're going to like it. I didn't like finances for the majority of my life up until about 18, 19 years old, right? Once I started getting good at it, then I liked it more. Okay. And so the same thing is going to go for this. So focus on this and then invest in learning that skill. Okay. Now, if you already have a skill, then we're not going to add another one. This idea that the average millionaire has 7 income sources. So me, the guy that has $50,000 to my name, I'm going to go start 7 different things right now. Terrible idea. That's how you make yourself broke forever. Okay. You're never going to master one of those income streams. So I'm going to look at which one created the 10K, right? Which one created the income so that I would have $10,000 in the first place. Okay. And I'm going to reinvest in this. I'm not going to put it in some other asset. I'm not going to do something else with it. I'm not going to put it in crypto. I'm not going to put it in stocks. I'm not going to try and put it in real estate. I'm going to look at how can I reinvest in that skill set? Okay. Now, if I already have the skill, that's where it will come down to the skill itself, right? So the skill or the sales and marketing of the skill, right? And it might be a little bit of both. I might put some of the money here and I might put some of the money here. Okay. But I want to reinvest. I want to put it back into myself to increase the skill and then to market myself so that I can get in front of more people and solve that same problem for them so that I get the same income back. Right? This is how companies operate. When you look at the actual, like the real blue chip profitable companies, if you look at like the stock market, this is what they do, right? You'll hear Jeff Bezos talk all the time about net free cash flow. You'll hear, Warren Buffett talking about, investing for income and reinvesting the dividends. Okay. Your company, and if you made 10 grand, those are your dividends. That's your profit. So I need to reinvest the dividend, the profit back into the source that it came from in order to increase the probability that it's going to happen again. Okay. And again, this is like, you have to be very, very good at analyzing, like, where did it come from? Because if it came from one particular source, but instead I spend that money on something else entirely, even if it's in my business, right? Let's say the reason why I earn the 10 grand is because I really understand, let's say I'm a car salesperson and I really understand sports cars and I have a clientele that specializes in sports cars. So when they come to see me, they feel like they're talking to a world-class expert, right? I should spend the money on that. I become even more world-class. How do I get to the next level at that craft? Right? Or how do I stay, same or maybe slightly better and get in front of more people? What I shouldn't do is invest in learning a different kind of car. No. I made my money on the sports car. So I'm going to do that, or I'm going to market my ability to do that. I don't need to know about SUVs. I need to know more about sports cars because that's where the money came from. Okay. Now, if you're like me, you like variety. Okay. Lexi can attest to this. I like to change things just to change them just because I like change. Right. I don't know what it is. I can't eat the same dinner 2 nights in a row. Once I watch a movie, I'm done with it. If I go to a restaurant I like, I never go back. I try a new one. Okay. Maybe you're that way. Maybe you're the opposite, more like Lexi, where it's like, I do the same things. These are my routines. Right. So my problem was, and sometimes even today is, I want to go do something new. I've got 10 grand. How do I learn something new? How do I acquire something that excites me? Okay. And I want to pinpoint this because when I have this ability to earn 10 grand, like I said, I'm by no means wealthy, but that is definitely potential. Okay. Someone that can earn 10,000 and save the 10,000, that shows that they have the ability to earn, the ability to save. Next is the ability to invest successfully so that we recreate the earn, right? Triangle of wealth here, earn, save, invest. The invest should always recreate the earn. Okay. So the potential is there, but it requires investment. Okay. And that's where I have to look at, okay, well, if I'm a McDonald's, for example, my business is burgers and fries. Okay. So how do I get more burgers and fries into people's hands? That's what I do. I don't need to be worried about fried chicken. Even though it's different and it's cool and it's exciting, I don't need to be worried about that. Okay. So I want to take a quick break and actually answer a couple of questions. We have a few that just got submitted. So again, if you have questions, we'll answer these intermittently. Drop them in the chat, drop them in the comments. First one is from Nano. I'm actually going to bring Nano on live here. Let me make sure that my my Facebook is muted so that I don't have feedback. Looks good. Okay, cool. So let me bring Nano on first. Nano's got more of a comment than a question. Nano, go ahead and unmute here. Oop, I think I just muted you on accident.
Hey, Jerry, Can you hear me?
I am. I can hear you. We're live with Nano. How are you?
Doing great, man. And you?
I am good. I'm good. You had more of a comment. Do you want to kind of let people know what you were saying?
Yeah, of course. This was actually a message that you were talking about years ago, like whenever I was a client, right? Like you got to learn a skill. And then that's the very first thing you got to learn, invest in yourself first. And that's exactly what it did. The stuff that you're saying made sense. I'm just going to follow that. And I've been following it for the past 4 years. So that's more of a comment or like a validation to what you're saying. And then it's like, I applied it and here we have the results today.
Yeah, totally. So what for you, what was the first skill where you realized I've got some money and I've got to invest or reinvest in the skill set?
How to communicate properly and translate into sales. So I can continue doubling what I earned this. Now, if I learn how to communicate and sell properly, I can actually make this duplicatable. And, the more effective that I am able to do, like kind of like what you said, the competency level, the faster that I'm able to do, the faster I can repeat the cycle, therefore increase it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Nano's point to that is like, and this is an indicator. My mind works this way too. Sometimes the thing to invest in is the obstacle, right? So like Nano said, he'd been doubling. And he basically was like, oh shit, I don't know how to communicate, right? It's almost like one of those fears, like what happens if, or how come I don't know how to, or what do I do? And that might be the blind spot. And sometimes the blind spot is the very thing to go invest in. So excellent question from Nano there. Let me see. We have a question from Avery. Let me see if we can bring Avery on live here. All right, we're live with Avery. How are you tonight?
Doing great, Jerry. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. What is your question?
Yeah, my question is there ever a point where, let's say your main skill set is giving you the capacity to generate, having at least 10K in the bank, and then there's major industry and technological shifts occurring within the economy? Where do you go from there? Is it a matter of the individual having to pivot to find out what's currently demanding in the economy, or is that person going to continuously double down on that skill set, which once brought them that 10K at one point?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Avery, I think what Avery's saying is actually really pertinent to a lot of people. And if it's not yet, I think it will be. Industries evolve, technologies come out that, sometimes they make what we're doing completely antiquated or irrelevant. So, Kodak, great example. Blockbuster, great example. At one time, they had an excellent business model. Everyone knew who they were. They were killing it. They were making profit. Boom, all of a sudden, Netflix comes in, right? So in this case, like Avery's saying, if I'm a Blockbuster where I'm like, hey, I've been selling, I don't even know what an example is right now, but I've been selling something that just got antiquated by technology, right? Like maybe I've been selling, like a Rolodex system and back in the early 2000s for keeping track of people's names in my sales pipeline. And all of a sudden client relationship management technology exists. The Rolodex thing doesn't matter. Well, sometimes I can make a pivot, right? So I have to really understand what is it that I'm delivering beyond just the service? Like what's the result of the service? And can I deliver that result through a different service? Because really, if I'm good at that sale or I'm good at that expertise, what I'm really good at is the result. I'm good at helping somebody have an organized pipeline. I used to use Rolodexes, but I could easily pivot into CRM software, right? So sometimes it's that. And so I've got to look at that. Now, the other thing I've got to look at too is, did I actually have the entire sector get, antiquated, or is it just less users, right? Because if it's less users, now it's just more of a niche. And so I can look at, okay, well, if it's a niche, is that something I can't do, or does that make it actually easier for me to dominate? Because maybe the other competition left, there's less players in the field. The people who are still left, it's easier for me to communicate with them because it's a much more narrow audience. And so I can really hone in and specialize communication with that group, like Nano had said. So I would look at those things first. Very seldom is it, I'm done and I've got to completely do a new thing. Okay. And then even if I do, let's say that I am done and it's like I have to do an entirely new thing, I've got to start over. That's what I look at, is I look at what are the similarities, right? Again, I go back to this. What problem was I solving? What was the difficulty level of that problem? How many people were having it? And what's the next most similar thing that I can pick up? Because that's going to be the easiest for me to get into. I've already got some of the hard and soft skills from what I did prior, and I can jump right into that. Okay. So that's what I look at. That's definitely, I think, more and more times that's going to happen. Taxi cabs, another one, right? Like we have Uber now, we have all this stuff, so we have technology coming. And I think that's going to be more and more important. So good question from Avery there. All right. Let me see if we have any other questions really quick. We have one. It's about the sacred account. So it's not totally on topic. I'll save that one for the end, Nick. And we can go over that just as kind of a one-off, but I want to stay on topic and on point here. Let me just make sure we don't have any on Facebook. Good to see everyone here. Cool. So I'm going to jump back into my talk here. So we talked about investing, right? So reinvesting in the skill set, earning more income. Now, what would be the reason why I wouldn't do that? Right? Like, why would I speculate on, let's say, digital tokens, or put it in the stock market, or try and become a real estate investor? Number one would be ignorance, right? This is the two main problems for people. And for me too, is I'm stupid. I don't know where it came from. Right. And I don't mean that as a diss, like literally stupidity, the lack of knowledge, the absence of knowing something. I don't know where the income came from. And because I don't know, and because I don't know to look, I put it in the wrong spot. I put it in a stock. I put it in a digital token. I put it in real estate or something else entirely. Okay. The problem with this is, if again, we go back to the triangle, we have earn, save, invest. The invest should always strengthen the earn. So if I earned this through selling cars, or I earned this through, being a nurse and working lots of hours and putting in 12-hour shifts, but then I go buy a fourplex, for example, that actually reduces my ability to earn. Okay, that just took a fixed quantity of time out of my life I can't have back. It now goes to that fourplex. And so that's my responsibility now. And so I'm not going to be able to put in the same hours I used to put in. Okay, it's violating affluence. I don't want to violate affluence. I want to look at, okay, well, how do I strengthen it? So I'm either stupid, and again, that's not like a rude stupid. It's I literally don't know. It's I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the observation. Okay. The other one is lazy. Okay, am I stupid or am I lazy? Okay. This is not a mean thing. This is literally like to give you some personal insight. I often ask myself these two questions. When something doesn't go right, it's always going to be one of the two. Okay. They call these the twins, right? Either I did it because I was stupid or I did it because I was lazy. Which one is it? I want to know the answer. Okay. Because if it's stupid, I need to go learn what I need to learn because I don't want to repeat the thing. If it was lazy, then it's an unwillingness. Why did I slack off? Why was I trying to do something different? Why did I let myself get distracted? Okay. Why did I loaf when I wasn't supposed to? Laziness looks like, okay, I made the income through working overtime. Okay. Which isn't easy. It's tiring. It's exhausting. We've all done it. And so I'm like, man, I really don't want to do that. There's got to be a shortcut. So now I start looking for the shortcut and I'm like, Dogecoin. I'm going to put all of my money in Dogecoin or GameStop stock. I'm going to put all of my money in GameStop or Tesla or whatever it might be. And so I speculate with it instead, or lotto tickets or Vegas or whatever the thing is, or you're buying Beanie Babies and flipping them. I don't care which one it is. You pick one, but it's out of laziness that I would do that, hoping that I can bypass having to earn because I don't want to have to do the work, right? Because I was lazy. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, enough people succeed at this for others to think they can too. That's all it is. Enough people made it for someone in the world to exist that you can point at and say, well, so-and-so did it. Okay. Well, you don't know about like the 999 million other people who tried the same exact thing and it didn't work because nobody points out them. They only point out the one guy who did it. Okay. So financial success is not based on Cinderella stories. It's not based on the exception to the rule. The fact that you're here watching this and interested in finances, you're already the exception to the rule. Okay. So we already got that one. Exception to the rule, done. Check it off. We don't need to use that one again. Now we need to look at, okay, what actually works? Okay. What actually works? And if I'm doing other things than what worked, again, it does come down to oftentimes I'm either stupid or I'm lazy or both. Sometimes I've been stupid and lazy. Okay. Like sometimes I'm so lazy, it makes me stupid. We've all been there too. And again, I don't mean that in a rude way. These are introspective questions. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying these are actually the things I ask myself on a legitimate basis because that's what I'm facing in that moment. I'm like, man, I don't want to push this hard anymore. I thought I already did this. I've got to do this again. Right. And so I get lazy. Right. Or I rest on my laurels with learning and I stop learning and I become stupid. I enter into, and this is the problem, as you excel, you enter into new territory. If you don't pull your learning up with you and your knowledge level up with you, as you advance, you become stupid every single time because you got to the next level. Now you don't know the stuff in the new level. So what do you have to do? You've got to learn the new level so that you can get through that one. If I go up to the next level and then don't do the learning, yeah, in the old level, I was intelligent. In the new level, I'm just stupid again. Okay. My marketing guy, he asked me for a quote today. He said, give me a quote on learning, right? Like something short, something sweet. Okay. And I was in the gym. So I was aggressive. I was doing, a workout, blood. When you work out, if you guys didn't know this, the blood flow to your brain goes down to about 4%. So don't make important decisions when you're in the gym. But I was there making important decisions in the gym, AKA stupid. But I came up with a brilliant quote. And so I sent it to him and I was like, those who don't learn simply remain stupid. Right? If I don't learn, I remain stupid. And what does that mean? What does that reinforce? What I just said, right? When I have the 10 grand, if that's a new level for me, I have to realize I am now stupid. I was smart with how to earn the 10 grand. I'm in new uncharted territory on what to do with the 10 grand. I am in fact stupid. I've never done this before. Okay. So if I am in fact stupid, the best thing to do is to learn. Sometimes I'm going to pay for that learning. Okay. Best place to learn. Number one is old dead people. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean biographies. Read about the people that they've already passed away, right? If you want to be successful, find someone that did it 100 years ago and they've got a biography and learn about that. Why? Because there's not all this marketing and social media and, black PR about them or positive PR about them that makes them seem a lot better than they really. You just read, okay, this guy did this and here's how long he lived for and here's how he did it and this was the result and then he died in this year and I know that he died successful. I'm going to read about that guy. Okay, so that's the number one source. The number two source is those that are already successful at it now. Successful, and I'm going to add transparent. There's a lot of people that are successful and not transparent, right? They don't share the good stuff. They share just enough to get you interested. Okay. So the first thing when I know I need to get knowledge, I need to invest in knowledge. Usually I don't go to a conference. I don't go to a course. I don't go to some guru. I look at, okay, well, where's an old dead person I can go learn from? Okay, I'm gonna go hang out with them for a while, right? Like it's real quiet, but they're gonna tell me what they did. And then secondly, I'm gonna look at someone that currently is successful and transparent, meaning they're like, you look at their social media profile and they're sharing the stuff no one else is sharing. You know, they're sharing parts of their life that no one else is sharing, and you know that they're sharing reality, and it's not like, you know, every other story is a Lamborghini and some marketing pitch, right? So these are the things that I personally look for when I'm like, where do I go learn? Okay. And I lean heavily on number one. Only when there's not a number one available do I really go for number two. Okay. And that's how I learned what I learned. Okay. I don't have a living mentor. I don't have a living coach. I don't have someone alive today that I call and ask for advice. Okay. I don't personally believe in that. I have a lot of these people, okay, old dead people that I go learn from, right? But by the time I finish learning from them, there's not a lot of other people I need to learn from. Okay. So that's the first part I want to talk about. The second part is if you're watching this and you've done this before, you're like, I have had 10 grand before. This is not a new thing. This is not a lot of money to me. And so I want to figure out, what do I do with this money? Okay. If this is you, all the stuff I said still applies, right? Now there's a certain point in a company or with an income stream where you start taking profit. Okay. Meaning you're done with the reinvesting phase. You're not putting everything 100% back into the income source, and you're starting to take out profit. When is that point? That point is when you're able to save 40% of your income, right? At that point, like, I'm not saying don't reinvest, but I'm saying you can start heavily pulling profit out of your income and putting that into other assets. Okay. So you should be like, if this were a graph, as you're earning, your savings rate should be climbing, with the goal of getting to that 40% of your gross income being saved. And so if I'm making this upward climb where I'm like, there's not a lot of reinvesting I need to do, I can continue making income now, you know, and I can continue to start pulling cream off the top, then what I'm doing is I'm storing value. Okay. Store value, AKA save, right? We've all heard save your money. We talked about triangle of wealth: earn, save, invest. Now I have the old cliche of it's not just what you make, it's what you keep, which is true, but it's not just what you keep. It's also where we keep it. What do I keep it in? If I'm keeping it in currency, bro, I just lost like 15% in the last 12 months because they printed trillions of dollars. 40% of all dollars created were created from 2020 between then and now, like in history. Right? So inflation, boom, the dollar buys less. If I was saving or trying to store my value, it's like me keeping expired milk in the fridge and then trying to make pancakes with it. Nobody's going to eat the damn pancakes. They're going to be like, that's disgusting. I'm never having Jerry's pancakes again. Okay. Why I'm cooking pancakes for you, I don't know. We're not going to go there, but you get the point. So I want to save, and I want to save it in a real store of value. So this is where I'm starting to use things like life insurance. Okay. We call this the sacred account. Okay, so I'm using life insurance. I'm using gold bullion. I'm using real estate equity, right? These are great places to store value. Why? Life insurance has been around for 160 plus years, never lost money, always made money, more protections than any asset that you can get today. Gold bullion been around for 6,000 years. Okay, it is the only currency that stood the test of time. It's the only store of value that stood the test of time today. That is easy for you to own. Real estate been around longer than gold has. Okay. So 6,000 plus years. People have been living in dwellings for a very long time, right? Now, real estate is a higher barrier to entry, more carrying costs, but it is something that stores value very well. So while I'm looking at where do I save my 10 grand, I'm usually going to start here, put it in life insurance. Why? It's the most liquid. It's the most safe. It's the most protected. It's easiest for me to get. I can't lose it, right? As I start getting the hang of this, as I start progressing, then I will do my gold bullion. That's easier for me to buy that than a house, right? And then I stack that up. And then once I've got these two things going, then later I can add in the real estate. Now, the benefit is these things all store value. These are also all three things that I can borrow against, meaning they will appreciate and they'll grow over time. While they're growing, I can borrow against them and I can double dip. I can still get the growth, borrow against them, get the loan, get the cash, and go invest that too. And now I'm making a rate of return on both sides. It's called arbitrage. Okay. That's making a rate of return on the same dollar in two different locations at the same time. Okay. So I like doing that. So if I'm somebody that I'm like, man, I've had the 10 grand before, I've done this. This is not new territory. This is something that I can do again next month. That's what I'm looking at. Okay. Now, the other factor that I've got to look at too is, okay, well, like, where am I at in my actual blueprint? You see my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom here. Okay. If I'm at a point where I'm saving 40% and I know that I can be doing this, but I have like excess, let's say I'm saving 40% and I still have 10 grand left over after that, right? Then I want to go back and I want to periodically review how much more income could I be earning right now? Okay, how much more income can I be earning right now actively? Okay, because the trap that you'll fall into, and I'll tell you this from personal experience, is as you get closer to financial independence, okay, financial independence is passive income, PI, passive income, greater than savings, expenses, and taxes. Okay, passive income greater than set. The closer that I get here, it's something you have to consciously fight, the lazier you will get. Because you realize you don't have to trade time for money anymore. You're like, I don't have to do anything. I don't even have to get out of bed today, right? And I'm still going to have income show up, right? Awesome freedom, but it's also something that, again, can bring you back to laziness. Okay, laziness, what does laziness breed? Laziness breeds stupidity. Okay, so I want to stay out of lazy territory. So I want to look at, as I'm getting here and I'm saving 40%, if I'm doing that and I still have money left over, I want to take a look at, okay, could I make another run? Could I reinvest in my active income source with some of this money? And could I go earn more? Because if I do that, I could take the 10 and turn it into maybe 40 next month through active income. Okay. In a store of value, that's not going to do that. In a private lending deal, 10 grand at 12%, that's not paying me that much money. Okay, I think that's what, $100 a month. Right. So if I could do $100 a month on the 10 grand, which I'm going to invest anyways, because I'm already doing the 40% rule, I'm going to get there anyways. Or I could put the 10 grand into a skill set or marketing or sales or communication or making the delivery of my company better or whatever it might be, then I might do that instead. Okay. And that might push me into a whole nother echelon of income so that I'm able to grow my business, grow my investments much faster. Okay. Now, this is, again, like something you want to closely monitor. There's not a hard rule of thumb with this. You have to just keep a pulse on it. You've got to know, I've got to know my income sources. I've got to know what my potential is, kind of like in the investing world, it's called market cap. Like how big of a space am I in? Could I push harder and get more out of this? And then I've got to be able to make that decision and commit to it. Right. So these are the main things that I'd be doing with 10 grand. Notice I didn't say go put it in the stock market. Okay. The stock market is not going to give you the income you can give yourself. Plus, best case scenario, let's say you double it. Cool. You've got $20,000. Like, that's cool. Like that's a double. 20,000 is more than 10. But if you put that back into yourself, I've had instances where I've turned 10,000 into hundreds of thousands. I can't do that in the stock market. I can't even do that. Like, you can show me a crypto chart. I can show you my own chart. Here's what my income was. Here's what it is now. Okay. That chart looks way better than the crypto chart. Even though the crypto chart might look cool. Okay, so I've got to look at that and know my numbers and know my stats. I want to open this up for a few more questions before we move on. So again, if you're watching this, if you've got questions, drop them in the chat on Zoom. And then if you're on Facebook, drop them as well. It looks like another comment from Nano. Let's bring Nano back on here. Let me see if we can mic Nano back up. We're almost live with Nano. All right, maybe his mic is not working. Okay, let's move on to our next one here. Avery says, make friends with the eminent dead. Exactly. That's a great plan. It looks like Nick has maybe a question or a comment. Let me see if we can bring Nick on. All right, so we've got Nick here. Let's see if we can get him on the microphone. How are you tonight, Nick?
I'm doing good, Jerry. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. It looks like you had kind of more of a comment about the laziness and stupidity thing.
Yeah, that's been kind of my MO for quite a while here. Probably because mostly in part that the learning tools haven't been there. So, you kind of get stagnated when you don't know what to do. You have a aspiration to do something, but there's no leading or prompting, outside of gimmickry. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like Nick said, the learning tools aren't there. And a lot of times, that's by design. We go through school, we don't learn about motivation. Like if you think of from high school, like grade school, middle school, when did anyone ever sit down with you and was like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to be motivated? I never had that conversation. I had to learn that in the gym. I had to teach that to myself, right? Maybe you pick that up in sports. That's like a very basic thing that helps you overcome laziness, right? Stupidity, like all throughout school, I heard a lot of information. I was told a lot of things. Never once did somebody say, here's how you go learn something. Okay, without an MO or a hidden agenda of what I'm going to learn, just here's the technique of learning. Like if you picked a subject later on in life, you could apply this technique and go learn about that thing. I was never taught that. Okay, and not to point that at anybody in particular, but like what Nick is saying, like we just don't get the equipment. We're not equipped when we come out of school. Sometimes we're less equipped. Right. As a kid, we're curious. We're asking questions. We're trying to figure things out. We get into school and it's like, you just have the same, pass this one and then pass that exam and pass that exam and regurgitate these answers. Here's your piece of paper. Go get a job and trade time for money for the rest of your life. Boom, you're done. Right. So excellent point there by Nick. All right. Let's see if we've got anyone else on Facebook with questions. Okay, good. I don't see anything else on Facebook. So let me jump back into this and we'll do another round of questions at the very end. So guys, again, $10,000, right? $10,000 if I lose it. And here's the problem. If I lose it, it's not that much money, even for the brand new person. And so that's where it's easy to act stupidly with this. Okay. This was 100. I'm more scared of losing that because I remember how long it took to get there. If it's 1 million, I'm a lot more scared of losing it because I remember how long it took to get there. If it's 10, for me, it happened in one sale. Right. And so I can kind of be a little bit stupid and a little bit, cocky on like, okay, well, if I make a bad decision, it sucks and I might lose it, but I did that in one sale. I can make it back, even though it was the first time I did it. And there is some truth to that. You can make it back. Right. But what if you make it back and kept it? Okay. Because here's what this should look like as you're going through. You should be able to do, and it's what Brad said in the comments, you should be able to get the money. This is the upward, store it, and then invest it. Okay. So you invest it here and then you get more and then you store it and then you invest it. And if you keep retaining it, that's how you make the stairway go up. That's how you build levels on this. But if you don't retain it, then it looks like this. Get the money, lose the money, get the money, lose the money, get the money, lose the money. Right. And we have this euphoria and this depression and euphoria, depression, and we never actually make any progress. Okay. And sometimes we might get a little bit more than we lost and we make slight progress. Right. But this trend like this is a lot lower than this trend. Right. I would much rather have this trend. Okay. So this is the entire point of tonight's course is if you're brand new at this, you're not there yet. 10 grand is not that much money. Okay, for me to put all of that in a crypto wallet, for me to put that all in the stock market, like that's what they want, guys. Stocks, crypto, these digital and paper assets that have no intrinsic value. Realize when you buy them, you don't get anything for your money. If the dollar value of it went away, what do you actually have? That's the question you've got to answer. And if I don't get anything for my money, then it's actually a communication line. I'm sending the money to somebody else. And if I don't sell it before they do, they get the money, not me. It's like musical chairs. Okay. Except for there's somebody else that I'm sending it to. They're a lot bigger and smarter than I am. Okay. I've talked before about high frequency trading. There's a book called Flash Boys. Okay. It's on a recommending reading list. And this is something that still goes on today, but high frequency trading, there are people that have this down to a science where they realize with trading, like having a faster internet connection than you do gives them an advantage. So if you get these ultra fast internet connections, you can buy and sell much faster than the average person can. You can run circles around them, right? And that's not a particular example of anything except other than to point out the fact that that's who you're up against, right? Like if you're putting this into the brand new thing and you're like, I'm gonna speculate in this area or I'm gonna try this out. Like, you don't know who you're up against. You don't know who's doing what on the other end, and they're not brand new at it. Okay. Markets are created. Realize that every single market that exists, a market means a pool of supply and demand. It's artificially created, especially in the investing world. Who is it created by, and why did they create it? They didn't create it to lose. Okay. So if I was not the one that created that market, that is not my market. I don't know the rules of it, and I don't have the controls over it. They do. So do I really want to stick my last 10 grand into it? Okay. Fortunes are not made that way. Fortunes are made this way: earn, save, invest, earn, save, invest. And then once you have financial independence, go speculate, go do whatever you want to do. You're financially free now. You can use your money and your time how you want. Right. So these are all factors. Now on the learning thing, like, I want to go back to this before we wrap up. This is another myth, is that this entire thing is going to be passive. Until you're financially independent, the earn is going to be active. Okay. And the things that you do to increase the earn are also going to be active. Right. I know some people on the webinar right now where they're killing it with their incomes. I know for a fact how busy you are. Okay. Nano, probably the busiest guy you know. You'd never know because he doesn't complain about it, but he's busy. Why? Because earning income, the actual act of the transaction, takes time. Right. And then if I want to increase the income, the learning that I have to do behind earning the income also takes time. Now, good thing the ROI here is incredible. When you learn, the income just skyrockets, right? But think about that. I'm working 40, 60 hours a week already on just earning the income. Now I'm saying I want to reinvest and I want to learn so that I can earn more. Well, that's another 10, 15, 20 hours on top of that. Right. And a lot of people don't know that going into it. And that's why people stall out is they're like, man, this is just too much work. And I'm telling you, have that expectation going in. Have the expectation that it's going to be 40, 68 hours a week for a short period of time. Then you've got the income, then you've got the assets, then you've got the passive income, and you're financially independent. And you do that for 5 or 10 or 15 years. Right. But this model of, 40 hours a week or less for 40 years, so that we can, retire at 60 or 70 for 15 years and then die. And hopefully we didn't run out of money. This is a brand new concept in the spectrum of what's existed in time. This was actually the 40-hour work week was invented by Henry Ford. Okay. And it's something that was an industrial age concept. It's been popularized. Now it's something that's part of our standard living today in America. Right. And in some cases, laws, right? Like, you've got the law of if it's more than 40 hours, it's considered overtime. Prior to that happening, people worked 60 hours a week. It was a normal thing. Okay. Now, the thing is it wasn't in a factory. You weren't a cog in a wheel in an office, right? Like, you were doing something with your hands. You were on the farm, you were manufacturing, you were producing, right? And so this is where, again, if we go all the way back to the beginning on what is the problem I'm trying to solve, how many people is it a problem for, and what's the difficulty level, the better I get at it, the more I'm going to enjoy it, right? So if I learn and I invest the 20 hours a week extra or the 10 hours a week extra to learn, in addition to my 40 or my 60, the first round of that is going to be very tough. I'm not going to like it because it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of time, and it's something I've never done before, right? But what's going to happen? I'm going to get better at the thing. When I get better at the thing, I'm going to like the thing more. Then it's not this hassle. It's not this chore that I have to do it, right? I'm going to be like, man, I can't wait to go learn more. Why? Because I'm good at this now. Like, it's actually not even a job. It's now a hobby. I enjoy it. And my income went up, right? So I'm enjoying myself and I'm winning and my income's going up and I'm growing and learning at the same time. Those are all great things. Now the second round, I'm more interested. The third round, I'm more interested. The fourth round, I'm more interested. Right? There was a quote from Tiger Woods, and I learned this probably when I was 18, 19 years old. He used to go out and swing in like golf clubs, like hundreds and hundreds of times every morning. Okay. And he would say when he was a kid, before he developed calluses, he would come back and his hands would be bleeding. Okay. Because of all of the, the calluses and the different, rips and tears and different things you get from swinging that many times with a golf club. Right. And then once he calloused over and he got that good and he got the skill level that he got, he probably still does that today. I doubt he bleeds. Right. And it's probably enjoyable. And each stroke is different than the other. And it's a unique experience. And it's something that actually builds a skill now. Right. But you got to go through the round of bloody calluses and band-aids first. Okay. And that's the part people don't share. Okay. I'm here to tell you in my business, I did, 70, 80, 90 hours a week between learning and doing. Right. And now it's inverse. Okay. I still am active the same amount of time, but I'm not doing, 80 hours a week of work and 10 hours a week of learning. Right. I've been able to reverse that. And this is where it gets fun. I could then do 60 hours a week of work. And then I can do 30 hours a week of learning. Right. And then I could be on a 50-50 where I'm doing half the time doing one, half the time doing the other. Or I could even be to the point where I'm doing 20 hours a week of work and I'm doing 60 hours a week of learning. Okay. When you get to this point, you basically become a Jedi. Your effectiveness per unit of output just shoots up. Okay. And that's what I want to encourage all of you to go for. Like the blueprint, do that. Like do all the stuff we're talking about, earn, save, invest, do that. And then also invest in yourself and get to the point where you can invest more and more in yourself to where you make more and more every time you swing the golf club, whatever your golf club is, whether that's, hours worked, sales made, whatever it would be. And you get to a point where you're spending so much time and energy learning that you don't have to work as much. You get the same or better output with less time involved. Okay. And also you start building up the passive income stream, right? So you've got two good things going for you at that point. Okay. So I want to open this up for final round of questions here before we sign off. Let me see if we've got anything on Facebook. Good to see everyone on here tonight too. Again, if you're on Facebook, if this was helpful for you tonight, please share this and get this out. Justin said this past week, I've committed to earn more income. That's awesome. I love hearing that. Couple questions on Zoom. Let me see what we've got here. Couple comments from Nick. So Nick says he's game. He's got a good 15 years left. Yeah. And I want to point this out. I don't know Nick's age. I don't know your age if you're watching. I saw something and I forget where the average person hits their stride in their 60s and 70s. Right? Like it's not this myth of you turn 40 and you start going downhill. The average person, like from a standpoint of knowledge and ability, they hit their stride in their 60s and 70s. Okay. If you're 70 years old, average lifespan's 85, you've still got a good 15 years left. Right? You might not have if it takes you 15 years from now to become financially independent, you might not have the glamorous, lifestyle and all the, relaxing and stuff if you had done it when you were 40. Right? But you've still got 15 years left to build something great. If you're 40 in 15 years, you're 55, you've got plenty of time left. Okay. Nano just posted. Let me see what Nano, he has the stat. Average Nobel Prize winner is 61 years old. Okay, guys, think about that. They're not 20, they're not 30, they're not 40. For people that are my age, Avery, Nano, Abraham, you guys that are watching, there's this myth that, if you're old, you're antiquated and there's nothing we can learn from these people. Guys, the average Nobel Prize winner is 61. We have a lot of life left. Okay. If you're 40 something, you got 20 years, you could win the equivalent of a Nobel Prize in your life, whatever that thing would be. Okay. Young people, that's not worthless. This is not everything that happened prior to 2000 has no point. And if it's not crypto and digital, there's no value. No, these people are literally, there's history in their minds. It's the skills they've built up. Like we need to be learning from that. If you're older, same thing. Like you're not this old fart that's got no life left. You've got time, right? Whether it's 10 years or 20 years or 40, you've got time. So, let me see if we got any other questions here. It looks like Nick has a question. Let me bring Nick back on. All right. So we have a question here from Nick.
Yeah. So Jerry, you was questioning my age. So I'll be 60 years old this year. Now I'm wondering, I'm putting in 70 hours, 60 to 70 hours a week for somebody else right now. How aggressive do I need to turn that around to invest that in myself? I mean, along with, staying, in the same vein I'm in, working with somebody else, how aggressive do I need to be to educate, to invest, to make deals for myself?
Yeah. Excellent question. So if I'm Nick, with the thing I'm looking at, so with income, the two indicators that I look at are quantity and quality, right? And this applies to both output and income, right? So what's the output of work, like the quantity and quality of it, and then what's the income that I receive back? So depending on how I'm compensated, I'm going to look at them. Is my pay plan focused on quantity, where I don't make a ton per hour, a ton being relative, but I can work as many hours as I want, right? And if that's my pay plan, I'm going to work that pay plan. I'm going to go put in an 80-hour week, right? I'm going to do whatever I can to earn more income. If I'm paid for quality, right? Like more like like an attorney or something like that, where it's like, I might have a cap on my effectiveness per hour, but I get paid a lot per hour, then I'm going to really max out on my skill set and stuff and make sure that I'm getting the most out of those hours, right? Now, the other factor of this is, and Nick brought up, he's working for somebody else. If you're able to earn good income working for someone else at this stage, I would definitely stick with that. And the reason why is for the average business, this is not everyone, but for the average business, most of them fail within the first 5 years, which means it's about a 5-year point to really being profitable. And at 5 years, you may not have built up net profits that exceed what you could have earned in 5 years at your job, right? So this myth of you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a business owner. No, the reality is there's fewer business owners than there are employees. So if you've got a good employer that's willing to give you a pay plan that's quantity and quality based, if you work a lot of hours, they're not going to limit you and they're going to pay you a good amount per hour or per task or whatever your exchange there is, then I'm going to max that out. Right now with learning, I would say be doing at least 12 hours a week. Okay. 12 hours a week minimum. So you're doing 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. Right. And if you can ramp that up and you can do 2 hours a day, 7 days a week and slowly increase the hours. And what will happen is as you start going up the blueprint to financial freedom steps and phases, you'll get rid of your debt and then you'll get rid of your tax costs and your insurance costs and you'll start being able to save more. You'll get to that stage of investing for passive income. You'll keep doing this. Don't let up on the gas pedal here, but you'll also then have the new income from your investing. Okay. And that'll start to snowball and stack. Right. And that's a time where, again, it's easy to feel lazy. It's like, man, I got passive income. I've been working hard for a while. Actually double down again at this point. Right. And that's going to take you much further. Nano says it takes hella work to be a business owner on top of providing the service in exchange with the marketplace. It's like a whole new echelon of activity in itself. Yeah, it's not for everybody, right? Like there's times where I'm like, man, like especially early on, there was times for me where I was like, I could just go sell for somebody else right now. And I could probably be making more money than I could right now, but I wanted to learn it and I did, right? But it's definitely not easy being a business owner. And it's not, all jobs are bad, all bosses suck, all of these things. Good. I think that's all of our questions on Zoom. Let me see if we have anything left on Facebook. Michael says full of knowledge and advice. Wow. Thank you, Jerry. My pleasure. That's what these courses are about. And again, guys, if this helped you, share this, invite somebody, put it on your social media, get it out there. We do these every week. We've been doing these for 4 years now. And we'll do one again next week as well. I think that's all the questions we have. Good. So we're going to wrap up, guys. So a couple of things. If you're watching this and you have not gotten a copy of my book, this is called Blueprints to Financial Freedom. Okay. This will give you the steps you need to take on earning income, saving, investing. There's an entire chapter here on earning income. And I promise you this chapter is nothing you've ever heard before, right? You've not heard this on a course or seen this on a conference before. So grab the book. If you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F, again, that's the letter B, the number 2, the letter F. Second thing is we will be back again next week. So mark your calendar. And make sure you're here 10 p.m. Invite someone, bring them with you, share this on social media. In the meantime, other than that, make sure that you guys have a fantastic weekend. And Nano says, send him a referral too if this is valuable. Yeah, it's great. Hook Nano up. Nano's working hard for you guys. So give Nano referrals if you have them. Other than that, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys next time.